Hi, everyone. My name is Thamalini, and I am the Director of Training and Development at HRA. I want to extend my warm welcomes to everyone to our second module of our skill building series. Today, we have two guest speakers, Sarah and Mustafa, both on the transformational change team within Deloitte's human capital consulting practice to teach us about what human capital consulting really is, and will also cover the importance of change management and the role it plays in successful business transformation. I know both Sarah and Mustafa have a lot of information to share with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the floor to Sarah.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for attending. Mustafa and I are super excited to be here today on this beautiful Sunday morning, nice and early. So thanks so much for attending. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll get started. Can everyone see okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, as I mentioned, we're here to talk to you today about transformational change. And if you have no idea what that means, that's totally okay. Hopefully by the end of the conversation, you'll have a better idea of what transformational change is, what human capital consulting is, everything in between, and hopefully we'll have lots of time for your questions at the end as well. So on the agenda, we'll start off and just introduce ourselves, and then we'll talk a little bit more about human capital consulting as a broad industry and kind of what that means, what that entails. And then within human capital consulting, we'll do a deep dive into transformational change and talk a little bit about what is change management, why is it so important, and why is it so important in big technology or big business transformations? And like we were having this conversation before of why are the humans so important and why are we talking about the workplace and the workforce? So lots of exciting content, and we'll have lots of time for your questions at the end. So feel free to throw those in the chat throughout and then we'll address them at the end, or feel free to put them in the chat at the end. So I'll introduce myself and then I'll pass it over to Mustafa to introduce himself. So my name is Sarah Fogh and my pronouns are she, her, and I am currently a business analyst at Deloitte under their transformational change team, which is within their human capital consulting offering. And a little bit more about me, I recently graduated from Western University, where I did a dual degree with both business at the Ivy School of Business, as well as music from the John Wright Faculty of Music. So a bit of an untraditional non-business background to start off, but definitely loved my time at Western. And it was through exposure at Western to different industries and different organizations is kind of how I stumbled across human capital consulting. And definitely on that first conversation when someone mentioned, oh, what about human capital consulting as a career? I had no idea what they were talking about. And it was really through conversations with current employees who are in human capital consulting, as well as chatting with other individuals at the university is how I really started to get to know what that job looked like, got to know a lot about Deloitte as a company, and kind of really solidified my interest in the field. And I definitely knew it was the right place for me and kind of the perfect place to start my career. So definitely super excited to be talking to you today. And if you've got questions about kind of my background as well as kind of what I'm doing today at Deloitte, totally happy to share. And yeah, I'll pass it over to Mustafa to introduce himself.
Thank you, Sarah. I, like Sarah, I'm also a business analyst on the transformational change team at Deloitte. Been at the firm for 6 months now. Sarah and I both completed an internship as part of the change team as well back in 2019, which feels like ages ago. Yeah, I graduated with a business degree from Schulich. I specialized in strategic management and organization studies. I don't have a fancy dual degree like Sarah. I'm not as interesting, but I know I really enjoyed my time at the university. Took some great courses that ultimately that helped me decide that I wanted to do org management generally. Yeah, it's honestly a series of accidents. When I started university, I'm actually an international student from Pakistan. When I first landed in Canada in 2016, I had no idea what consulting was. I just knew that consulting is perfect for people who don't exactly know what they want to do. And so because it's really broad, you get to experience a number of industries, a number of projects. It's super interesting. So when I first came in, I had no idea what consulting was, let alone human capital consulting. And so through a series of just interacting with people, through internships as well, just like when you're starting out, you're just applying to all these places. You don't really care what the work is. You're just applying because you're intimidated. You just want to get an internship, and then you'll figure it out later. And so it's the same for everyone. And so that's generally what brought me to Deloitte, to transformational change. I love my time at the firm, the culture, the work, and yeah. So here we are. It's been a great journey, and I hope we can also. It's again, I will keep this super simple and straightforward and easy breezy. And because we not too long ago were in your place, exactly a year ago, I'd say I was on the receiving end of these workshops. I'd sit quietly with my video off and not engage, just listening to what the other person is saying. And it's perfectly right. As long as we're able to pass on that knowledge. And again, because this is our first time doing this as well, we're all here to share knowledge, and I'm sure that there's a lot this after the end of this session that Sarah and I will learn from you guys as well. And so we're super excited about this. Yeah, we can jump straight into it. Yeah, so we wouldn't be good HC practitioners if we didn't engage you along the way. So we'll be having a few of these over the course of the presentation. Let's make sure everyone has access to it, and we can. Yeah, so you can see the code. Just go in there, share your thoughts, one words, phrases, sentences, whatever you know about human capital consulting, and just to get the conversation going and seeing where we're at, and see what your understanding is of HC consulting.
So this code should work, but yeah, if you go to menti.com, so just www.menti.com, MENTI, and then it'll prompt you to enter a code. Please enter the 50621766, and that code's just on the top of the screen too. So you can go ahead and take a look there. And then just put in the chat, kind of in that Menti chat, what you know about human capital consulting. And if the answer is nothing, that's totally fine too. We just want to kind of get a pulse of what people know or what people are maybe excited to learn about.
Finding employees' talents and potential, definitely that's a big part of just you want to unlock the potential of your labor force. That's a huge thing. Managing people, strategy people, definitely not much. That's perfectly all right. HRM and HR planning, it definitely does. It's actually one of the biggest streams of human capital consulting that we'll definitely get into in a while. So you're spot on about that. Works with human resource and planning professional development within the industry. That is correct. Subject to help business know how to arrange their workers, for sure. That this is a big aspect of it. Problems with teams, definitely. Consulting generally requires a lot of problem solving, troubleshooting, and figuring out for your clients what's working, what's not working, and then ultimately helping them optimize operations and helping to manage change transformation in an organization. As a change practitioner, Sarah and I will obviously would like this answer. Selecting the right employees for the company's overall success and failure. To an extent, definitely, this is something that you want to help your client achieve, because having the right employees ultimately sets you up for success in the future. So you guys definitely have a good understanding of what human capital consulting is. Yeah, so human capital consulting. Human capital consulting, as you know, again, deals with the people, with the workplace, the workforce. At Deloitte, and generally, if we had to break it down into different branches, we have HR transformation, we have organization design, for workforce transformational change. I'll start a little by introducing what HR transformation is. I think HR transformation is essentially helping your clients reimagine and revitalize how HR enables the organization and empowers its people, its talent essentially. Our HR teams work with the client to develop and ultimately implement those overarching strategies to improve how the HR function at their business delivers its services to better support its people. And this essentially what primarily this includes is, can you guys hear an echo as well?
If you're not speaking, please mute yourself. I'm not sure if it's an echo from someone unmuted.
It's okay. Yeah, it's gone now. Okay, yeah. So yeah, HRT essentially what they do is they help transform HR operations, and you guys are very familiar with what those HR core responsibilities are. This would include payroll, this would include recruitment as well, your end-to-end talent process, whether that's onboarding, whether that's separation, just from a complete end-to-end, just how to transform those operations to with leading cloud technologies. Workday, I'm not sure if most of you are familiar with it, but it's essentially a function that helps you improve your HR and finance to transform it onto a cloud technology that just it makes HR management a lot better, improves it a lot. And the purpose of HR transformation generally is to improve service delivery. Again, how these essential services are delivered, enabling innovation. An example of which would be an interesting example that I can think of off the top of my head is that you can track during COVID which of your offices have people who vaccinated, who are not vaccinated, knowing, I think generally having that visibility, having those data points, those analytics as well, essentially, they're consolidated on the cloud. There's one single source of truth. It helps you make those decisions better when you want to go back to the office and stuff. And so the broader purpose would be to provide your employees with the same sort of experience that you want to provide to your clients in a nutshell. And so that is a lot of what HR transformation projects do. Moving on to organization design. More recently, organization design and transformational change are often bundled together. They talked about in the same breath because it is part of the same end-to-end process. Organization design is what you think of when you think of structure designs, your span of control, your chain of command, having a centralized model versus a decentralized model. Organization design, essentially, we help clients decide what the perfect structure would be moving forward for them, what the perfect operating model would be, and just answering questions like what areas of a business should remain centralized versus what areas should remain autonomous. And it isn't just that, but also the roles and responsibilities of certain. So when you look at job descriptions and competencies, you'll notice that when you're searching on LinkedIn or when you're searching on anywhere, like a business analyst is a fairly generic title, but it could mean completely different things for different organizations. A business analyst for a consulting firm would mean something different as compared to a business analyst for a bank. And so organization design also includes just helping map out those roles and those responsibilities, figuring out how roles are evolving today. A business analyst role today is very different from business analyst roles 10 years ago. Today, the business analyst is required to be more skilled, more familiar with latest technologies and stuff. And so those evolving responsibilities as well, the competencies that you require to succeed in a role, to carry out those functions of the business, also helping decide what degree of specialization you require at each level. And this is especially relevant for businesses that are growing, because I'm sure you're all familiar, when the business grows, whether that's through mergers, acquisitions, even within a team, if there's a hyper growth business, with startups especially, you go from having 10 employees to having 1,000 employees in no time. Just to ensure that growth is sustainable, it's important that there is a strategy in place for how you want to structure the organization moving forward. I feel like I'm talking too fast or going too quick. Just feel free to interrupt me at any time. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand or interrupt me, whatever feels good to you. And if what I'm saying is too complicated, you want me to tone it down a bit, I can do that as well. If not, we will move on to workforce transformation. Workforce transformation is pretty interesting. I enjoyed a lot, like just the idea of workforce transformation really fascinates me because it involves workforce, and workplaces just responding to technological and societal disruptors around the globe. And I think the perfect example for this would be COVID. COVID has completely changed how we think about work. Our perspective of work has completely shifted. How work is being done is completely shifted. As consultants, we travel. The model essentially before COVID was that if I've got a client in Alberta, say for example, I'm traveling Sunday night, I'm going to the client site. I'm working in Alberta from Monday to Thursday. Thursday after work, I'm flying back to Toronto. Friday, I'm at my home office. There's a lot of traveling that's involved. And I'm not trying to scare you guys. It's one of the reasons why people go into consulting, because there's a lot of travel and stuff. But that was a big part of how consulting industry across the globe generally delivers its services. But because of COVID, obviously that can't happen. You're not traveling as much, and so remote working and just figuring out how to have those teams. How do you want to how do you build a culture for a firm that's completely remote? How do you make sure that people are not burning out? How do you redesign your workplaces? We haven't gone back to the office yet, but it'll be interesting because I don't expect we'll be going back to the exact same workplace with just those subtle changes, like just something as simple as you wonder how many people will be allowed in the elevator. How will we be seated? How will that work? We don't have designated desks at the office. How will that work? And so these are some of the questions that our clients, well, they definitely keep some people, some businesses up at night figuring out what their post-COVID strategy is. And so that is when our workforce transformation team comes in, helping them plan out what the new normal looks for them, and not just COVID, but just generally societal disruptors. There are businesses that were looking to do certain things, like they may be hoping to implement cloud over the next 5 years or over the next 6 years, but because of COVID, that process has been expedited. And so the workforce transformation team comes in, they make sure that the client is ready for it, that the change is not too overwhelming for them. And I said the success of every business depends on having a strategy that constantly reimagines all the aspects of its workforce management, and just whether that includes accessing, aligning, engaging, rewarding the workforce of your future. And so it's just interesting because workforce transformation deals with all those questions about, will there be a hybrid work model? Is a hybrid work model sustainable? Is it feasible? Will people feel comfortable returning to work? How can work? I think it was June who brought up the fact that about burnout as well. How work can be restructured, redesigned to make sure that people aren't burning out as much. So these are all considerations that go into workforce transformation. It's super interesting work. And now I will shift my focus to. I'll just pause for a second. Does anyone have any questions, or again, am I going too fast? Okay, perfect. So we'll jump into transformational change. This is what Sarah and I do. Transformation change essentially deals with, again, organization transformations, large-scale transformations. Businesses are constantly evolving, they're being transformed in many ways, whether that's through mergers and acquisitions, whether that's through digital transformations, whether that's through introduction of new technologies that their workforce isn't familiar with, restructuring, regulatory changes. These are all increasingly relevant factors that affect every business in today's world. And so how that transformation goes smoothly is an essential part of what we do. Transformation is driven by leadership, strategic decisions to just change the direction and position the firm for growth, to react to those changing market conditions. I brought up the fact that that businesses that were looking to do these changes over the next 5-6 years have had to expedite some of those processes because of COVID, because uh, things are evolving at such a rapid pace that you can't risk waiting it out and seeing, okay, once things go back to normal, what if there is no normal? And what if there's a new normal? And so you need to be uh, proactive in managing those changes, and that is where we come in, because change generally is overwhelming. We as humans are extremely ambivalent towards change. I can speak for myself, I can speak for Sarah when I say that just changes of any sort. When we were starting at the firm, our onboarding experience was fully remote. And on my first day, my laptop just wouldn't start. And that you panic, because like, well, on my first day, I'm not going to show up because my laptop's not working. What a sorry excuse to just not be at work. And so like the first few weeks, and I was super overwhelmed. And this is after we'd already been at the firm, we knew the people, but it's just change generally is a very like, people are generally hesitant towards change. We're creatures of habit, and so the same challenges apply. There's a need for new organization design. There's a need for new cultures and new behaviors. A need for the right leadership to steer people in that direction. And so we at Transformational Change are focused on enabling those transformations through our organization, people solutions. And again, for the purpose of this workshop, we will be focusing heavily on transformational change. We'll be doing a lot of that. And so by the end of this, we should have a very good grasp of what we do as part of change. And yeah, I think we can move forward. Any questions? Okay, perfect. So I did touch upon this briefly, but yeah. So change management, as you can see, it's prospectively transitioning impacted stakeholders from the current state to the future desired state. People-related challenges that come from, so, and when I talk of people-related challenges, it can be something as simple as people just not knowing how to do something. Like if you switch from something completely manual to an automated process, it's obviously difficult for just people to wrap their head around it. And so then there are people who actively resist change. That is a big challenge as well, because you don't want any roadblocks in your process towards your desired future state. And so the purpose of change management is essentially to come in to maximize adoption and fully realize the benefits of this transformation, and just making sure that the planning and the vision that an organization has for its future state is actually followed through without any major hiccups. And this includes a multitude of things, includes generating awareness for the transformation objectives through stakeholders. We'll touch upon all these things in a while as well, but just the transformation objectives, what they are, how each stakeholder is impacted by those, driving behavioral changes to design new ways of working. So changes such as technological changes are more straightforward because you're just implementing a technology. Behavioral changes are more complicated because you need to actively push, like this is where the psychology and your behavioral insights come in. What are you doing to make sure that people are actually adopting those things and making them a part of their life? This is you can have a good change process, but unless those changes are ingrained in the day-to-day, in the mindset of those people, and they're actively working to adopt those new changes and adopt those new behaviors, it'll be difficult to sustain that change. Preparing leadership to walk the walk and show activities were supported within their networks, pretty straightforward. Without leadership buy-in, without leadership sponsorship, it becomes extremely tough to get buy-in within your employees. Naturally, if your leadership is leadership support is wavering, then it's pretty understandable that it's going to trickle down to your employees at the lower levels as well. We'll be analyzing just analyzing concerns and issues. It's also about doing a pulse check, making sure where employees are, how they're feeling about stuff, making sure that there's also something known as change fatigue. You don't want to overwhelm your employees with too much information. So just managing those things, as straightforward as it sounds, it's a fairly complicated process. And it's one of those things where people assume that change management is a value add service where it's seen more as a well, it's nice, it's a nice to have, but increasingly, especially in a post-COVID world, it's become known that it is an essential service. You can't have a transformation without actively focusing on change management. So we'll move forward to the next one. Again, building on that, the objectives, we just talked about those, to drive adoption, to ensure that the people that you're working with have maximum support, they're feeling supported. Any risks associated with those changes, these risks normally include managing any resistors, stuff, leadership alignment, creating commitment as well. People need to buy into your vision. They need to be able to understand what these benefits are for them. It's simple. When we get it, and it's like, you can think about it from our own perspectives, but like, you get 20 universities from the email, 20 emails from the university, sorry, yeah, 20 emails from the university, and 18 of those don't concern you. You won't bother reading them. You'll just mark them as read and just be on your way. So essentially, those two that affect you are the ones that you're interested in. And so just allowing your employees to understand what affects them, how this is going to benefit them, helping them realize that this adoption and this transformation is good for them and the business, rather than just being good for the business, because your people are, again, a huge part of what you do. The last point is an important one: minimizing disruption to business as usual activities. And I'll touch upon this in a bit later as well. But yeah, while you come in for a new transformation, business is going on as usual. You can't put a halt to everything that you're doing to go on with a new transformation. If you're implementing Workday for your new HR function, that does not mean that you stop doing HR activities for the entirety of that 1 or 2 years that's happening. And so you want to minimize that disruption, which often includes like engaging with different stakeholders and figuring out what times work for them, what's a good time to introduce some of those changes, what's a bad time to introduce those changes. And so that is essentially what change management is in a nutshell. Any questions? Okay, we can move forward. I'll pass it over to Sarah to explain why change management. Yeah.
Yeah, and so exactly what Mustafa said, he did a great job of explaining what is change management. And yeah, as transformational change consultants, we are doing a lot of change management activities. And, you know, that could be for various reasons of the business internally doesn't have those, like our clients' businesses, they may not have consultants, or they may not have change management practitioners who are kind of familiar with the types of activities that you need to do when you're undertaking a big transformation. Or it could just be they don't have the capacity of, you know, sometimes it's, okay, we need, as Mustafa mentioned, we need to make sure that business as usual activities are continuing to run, even though we're maybe taking on a new strategy or a new technology across the business. We're interested in implementing that, but we're also interested in keeping everything going until we make the big switch. And a lot of times our projects are quite a long duration, because yeah, this type of work doesn't just happen overnight. It takes lots of planning and strategizing and before you get to the implementing. So yeah, change management is super, super important in any big transformation. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why change management and why it is so important. So what you see on the screen here is called the commitment curve, or the change commitment curve. And basically the goal of change management is to bring stakeholders across this commitment curve. So, you know, ideally we want everyone in our client's business, we want all their employees to be bought into this new change, bought into, okay, great, I understand what is changing, I understand what I need to do, I'm so on board with this, I'm so excited for this change. And a lot of the times that's not true at the beginning of, as Mustafa mentioned, we're creatures of habit. We don't like change all the time. And it takes some difficulty of, you know, navigating how to do something that you've been doing a different way for quite a while. So the goal is that you want people to be on the right-hand side of this curve. That to say, you're not going to have everyone at level 6 and 7 of bought in and advocates, and you know, you want some employees to say, I love this change, I understand why it's so beneficial, guys, get on board, we got to do this. But at the end of the day, you're going to also have some people who are on the left-hand side of, okay, I just don't even really know what the change is. Oh, does this even really affect me? I hear there's some new technology, but I won't have to use that. So, it's trying to, how do we get that sentiment across the curve? And you're never going to have everyone on the right-hand side, but the goal is to move people. And so, you might have someone at a level 3 or level 4 of, they understand what's changing and maybe kind of how it impacts them, but they maybe don't really understand why it's so beneficial. So, through our change management activities, we're helping to move people across the curve. And the goal is to get them kind of more to the right-hand side. So kind of in short, to get up that commitment curve, people need to be both willing and able to accept the change. So what we mean by able is they need the skills and the tools and the training to be able to do work in the new way. And so, as change management consultants, we go in and we're sometimes helping to design those tools and implement those tools of, hosting training sessions to teach them how to use the new technology, or providing them manuals and things like that, or trying to implement new skills workshops to help them. So that's kind of that able piece. And then the willing is people are like, at the end of the day, they need to kind of personally sign up to say, yes, I'm on board. And so sometimes we need to explain to them why this is so important, why this transformation is going to actually change things for the better. And a lot of the times our work as transformational change consultants is helping with those communications and helping to design email communications or posters that get put across the office of our clients to kind of help them learn more about the change, so they'll be more enticed to buy in. So that's a little bit more about kind of the change commitment curve and why change management. But to continue on that trend of why change management, at the end of the day, change really helps to get to your end destination faster and more effectively. So, if you're implementing a new technology, there's going to definitely be a bit of a dip of productivity as people are learning how to use this new technology. And, things might get a little bit harder before they get easier. But the hope is after that little period of difficulty, we actually find a lot more success. We're able to do our jobs faster, more effectively, more efficiently, frees up time and resources for other activities. So it's the goal of change management is to really help navigate that period of, whoa, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. So, we kind of call that the valley of despair. You'll kind of see that little gray triangle in the middle of the screen. So without change management, what happens is, the change is implemented and we see a bit of a dip in productivity of employees are trying to navigate, oh, things are changing. How do I navigate this? And we do get that dip in productivity. But without actively managing the change, such as developing more communications and training and coaching and advocating with leaders, we're really going to see that dip in productivity. And people are going to feel distracted, not focused. They're going to disagree and get frustrated of, this new way is terrible. Why did we ever do this? I'm just not gonna use this new way. And, lots of those feelings of tension until eventually, they get over it. They're like, okay, this is not changing. I'm going to keep going along with this. And, eventually productivity is going to increase again. But that future performance is super unpredictable, right? If they can find shortcuts to use the old way, they probably will. So you never really know exactly, is that going to be positioned for success? Versus if you do implement change management activities, and we see this in our clients' businesses a lot, is we go in and we help them design and implement some change management activities. And we actually see that little productivity dip is not as low as it would normally be if we weren't there helping with those types of activities. And so we actually see the dip is shortened, and then we really see lots of value. And we find that, the new way of working is way more successful than the old way of working. People are bought in and excited for the change. And, both from a financial perspective and kind of a employee health perspective, you'll see lots of benefits in the organization. So I like this visual as it really kind of helps explain why change management and really so what of why are we there? Why do our clients pay us money to do this type of work? Is it actually really does help them realize the benefits of that transformation. So one more slide just to further reinforce why change management is so important is you'll actually see that a lot of the barriers of big successful implementations can be mitigated with change management. So, the top barrier to why an organization might not have a successful transformation is actually resistance to change of, employees who are expected to take on this new way of working are not really excited about this change, or are actively resisting it, either from, this doesn't affect me, I don't need to do anything different, or why are we doing this? The old way was working perfectly fine. And, that's actually kind of a barrier of 82% of successful implementations. So, change management activities will help to mitigate that top barrier. And you can read the slide of the rest of those barriers on the left-hand side. And you'll notice that for those top 5, change management can help mitigate at least 4 of those. So just one more reason to kind of really drive home the importance of change management, and why, if our clients are undergoing a big transformation, maybe they're getting a brand new strategy and changing the way that their organization is mapped out, it's just so important for them to also include change management activities, or that transformation is, for lack of a better words, kind of all for nothing, or, it's not going to be as successful as it really can be. So it is time for another Menti poll to make sure that you guys are engaged, and definitely feel free to, ask questions in the chat throughout. But really wanted to ask you, what barriers to success does change management help to overcome? So kind of some of the ones that were on the last slide that we just used, or as well as just other barriers that you think that change management is going to be helpful in mitigating against. So go back to menti.com, and it should be the same code. And let me just share my new screen.
Also, feel free to just mention any, like, the barriers that you think are the most important ones, that you think are absolutely critical for any change process, that could potentially hamper the success of a transformation.
Yeah, acceptance to change, definitely. With change management activities, we help to get people, brought up that commitment curve to they're accepting and they're willing to take on this change. So yeah, resistance to change as well, definitely. Technology barriers, exactly. Change management can really help. The simple things of, I don't know how to use the new technology, so I don't want to use it. Like, that's our job too as change management practitioners, to think through, okay, technology team, like, we may not have the knowledge of how to use everything perfectly on the new system, but we may say, okay, technology team, you're developing a new technology for our client. We need to develop some training materials together so that we can help the employees feel like they're set up for success. Yeah, willingness, motivation, ambiguity as well. Some people don't even really know what's changing. They're like, oh, I hear our company's taking on some big project. They've hired Deloitte for this big transformation, but what is even really changing? Like, what's going on?
This is a huge part. Ambiguity. I think just like you can go 6-7 months into a project without people knowing that there's a change happening, or just like people, and ambiguity leads to confusion, which often leads to people panicking. Any like something as simple as, especially this is more relevant in org design projects, when like there's restructuring happening, there's new roles coming in, there's being changes made to existing roles and responsibilities. It is perfectly natural for people to panic and feel anxious about their future at the firm. And so mitigating all those things are an important part of what a change management practitioner does.
Definitely. Yeah, the other ones here at the bottom, also great answers. Learn in adapting the change, overcome lack of employee engagement. Yep, some people might say, I don't have time for this. I have my day job. I don't care about this new way of working. And so that's also our job, to get them to understand that, no, this is actually, it might be a bit of extra work right now as we're trying to learn both, but it's actually going to shorten the amount of time going forward. And yep, the rest of them, sustain the change, anxiety about approaching something new. Yep, people are scared of the unknown. And so, trying to crystallize a little bit more of, this is what you can expect. Definitely.
Yes, this is a big part. People just asking you, everything's been working fine so far. Why do I need to change? So being able to answer that why and being able to convince those people that this is why we're changing in the long run, this will be better for you. That is an extremely important part of that. Diversity barriers, it falls under workforce transformation, but it is essentially a big part of workforce transformation. It's increasingly relevant moving forward as well. And definitely this is a big part. There's a lot of communications happening these days about what's the most effective way to mitigate those diversity barriers, what's the perfect strategy to move ahead and optimize a very diverse talent pool that you have at your disposal. So definitely it is a big part of human capital consulting.
Yeah, and even on that, we're definitely starting to see more diversity, equity, inclusion projects across Deloitte. And a lot of the times we end up including change management resources on these types of DE&I projects, because at the end of the day, a lot of it is maybe a cultural change within the organization, right? If they systemically have a lot of these diversity barriers in their organization, one, we're going to have to change that. And two, we need change management to help change that, because to go to a super established, an established incumbent organization and say, okay, we need to move a lot of these things and pave the way for different interactions. We can't just say 3, 2, 1, make this change, right? It's a lot of how do we have those conversations? How do we communicate? How do we have this conversation with leaders first and then the rest of the organization? So definitely change management can be a factor in addressing diversity and equity inclusion projects too.
I think this is the perfect segue into the sort of projects that we do. I think this is what you guys are here for, essentially. If you're interested in what does the work actually entail. I hope I'm not jumping the gun. No, I'm not. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, the types of projects that we do and the sort of clients that we work with. So the projects that we do as part of transformational change is a lot of technology implementation, a lot of digital transformation, a lot of operating model design. I know we've touched on these things briefly in previously as well, but like tech implementations would include implementations of cloud systems like Workday, SAP, SuccessFactors, Oracle, CRM implementation with Salesforce. And so you'd actually be surprised at the number of businesses, large, successful, like industries and industry leaders that have built their success on legacy systems, but aren't quite primed for the disruptive technology. And as we say, the future of work, as compared to a lean startup. And it's understandable. But so these tech implementations essentially help in upscaling those systems to the needs of today and upscaling their employees to be better equipped with handling those challenges. For example, and this was shocking to me, so I'm sure it's going to be shocking to you as well. You'd be surprised at how many large institutions within Canada and across the globe still use Excel to keep track of their people's vacation times, or just maintaining things over Word documents. And the biggest shocker for me was people still using Outlook to communicate with their customers and not having a customer relationship management system in place. And these are companies that are large institutions of the country that essentially drive the Canadian economy, and even across the globe. Like across the globe, it might even be like there are people still like keeping track of things manually with paper documentation. And so these technologies are not just a nice to have, they're a need at this point for those clients to just survive. And so that is extremely important. Mentioned org model redesign. This is essentially similar to org design as well, where there's misalignment of resources, where the structure that you have at the business and the allocation of resources is not optimizing your work. Rather, it's holding you back and leading to a wastage of people's time and capabilities. This could be something as simple as 4 people being hired to do the job of 1 person. So org model redesign ensures that the best structure is in place to ensure the resources are being used efficiently, used effectively. And 2 important components of this are structure design and process design. Structure design meaning, of course, what sort of structure you want to have, and process design meaning how do you want to simplify or streamline some of your processes. It's something as strict, if something is as simple as going from employee to HR and then being implemented, it doesn't need to go through hoops of from employee to HR to payroll to benefits to onboarding and then going back to it. Something as simple as that. And so from a timing perspective, I know we touched upon this briefly, but it's interesting because most of organization design projects, say an op model redesign or an organization restructuring, these are relatively shorter projects. You can expect an organization design project to last anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks, which compared to what we have on change projects is nothing. And you can expect change projects to last much longer. Those projects can last anywhere from a few months to 2-3 years. And not to say that you'll be stuck on the same project for 2-3 years. This obviously shifting and people coming in and going out. But because of all the things that we've mentioned that go into ensuring that change is sustained, you need to be able to give it time as well. This isn't something, as Sarah mentioned, that happens overnight. There's a lot that goes into it, which is the perfect segue into the sort of change work that actually goes into a change project. There's just some of the types of work that we do. I'll start with org alignment. Org alignment ensures that there are that there's this alignment all across the levels. This can sometimes include developing a change network. A change network is essentially building a network of change champions being across the organization. And these are people of influence within the organization. And this could be formal influence or informal influence. These people would help expedite that change process because they've built those networks, informal networks, and they can socialize these changes in those networks and ensure that everyone's aligned. Org alignment also entails holding workshops with business and functional leaders to understand how each of them will be impacted by these changes that are happening, and then coming up with strategies to mitigate those certain risks, and identifying what groups are highly impacted versus low impacted. So if a client is implementing a new customer relationship management project or system, that is more likely to affect and impact your customer care group as compared to a manager or say any other person, any of the stakeholders. So just figuring out those things are important as part of org alignment. Change readiness. This includes, am I going too fast? You can stop me, let me know if I'm going too fast. Change readiness includes conducting surveys over the course of the project to get just from time to time get a pulse check on how the audience is reacting to those potential changes, whether they're feeling good about it, whether they're positive towards it, or whether they're negative towards it, whether they're completely neutral towards it. What kind of change is it that they're experiencing? Is it just an FYI for them, just like a good to know thing, or is it a wholesale change that requires them to take on new roles and new responsibilities, or for them to learn new skills and track these new metrics that they'll be measured against? And so that is an important part of your change readiness as well. And closer to go lives include like the actual implementation, just tracking user adoption, making sure that people are actually using those new systems and those changes are actually happening, and that they're not turning back to old systems or any informal systems that were already in place. So that's in a nutshell what change readiness entails. The stakeholder engagement, extremely key. This deals with the sort of messaging that is going out and whether or not we're building excitement for the changes. How many communications are going out and at what times? This is also important. You can't send 10 emails on the first day of the month and then not send any communications the next few weeks. So just this is a lot of like, this is more tactical stuff that you need to map out, like a communications plan. When you're sending out what information, and so you're not overwhelming your employees with too much information, because if there's too much going out and very less is being retained, that's not an effective strategy. And communications happen pre-go live and post-go live. This would include post-go live would include encouraging people to continue trying out those systems, just being in those systems, just playing around, seeing how those works. So those systems are institutionalized, and just keeping the audience engaged at all times. There's also stakeholder assessment, which is similar to our org alignment piece. This is usually done at the initial stage of the project to identify who the key stakeholders are that will be directly or indirectly impacted by the upcoming changes, and then mapping them based on their level of influence within the organization and their level of impact. This ultimately serves as a guiding tool on how to tailor our strategy moving forward. What groups need, this helps in identifying what groups need more support than others, what groups need more communications, how and when to, and what groups to need reinforcement of that positive messaging, etc. So that is a key part of what the stakeholder assessment ultimately sets us up to do. There's the change plan, change strategy. What's the vision for the project? How that can be translated into a viable and effective change plan, and then broken down into the more tactical pieces that we've just discussed. That just help you guide, like this is your North Star for the project, and just help you realize that vision. What are the set of activities? What are the set of actions that need to be completed for that process to be successful? There's this leadership being leadership alignment. Talked about this already. It's key. Getting buy-in from leadership figures is extremely important for the success. Otherwise, your project will fail in its initial stages. It's not even going to go until post go live. People not. It's not going to work. And so some businesses are very top down heavy, with the level of leadership support, the level of communication that are going out from leadership ultimately influence the reaction you'd expect from your employees. And if leadership isn't aligned on what that vision looks like, it becomes increasingly difficult to implement those changes. And this is a big reason why many projects fail. And leadership, again, needs to be engaged at every level, every step of the project. Then there's training, which I personally like the most, because during my time at the firm, I've been involved heavily with training, which is why I might sound biased when I say it's arguably the most important part of any change project. And this includes just making sure that the support that we're talking about in terms of like upskilling them, like developing like what are the changes, and then creating a training curriculum that essentially tells you what courses or what training each different group needs to be able to carry out those tasks effectively. And then training development, what learning guides are available to them, what quick reference guides or job aids are available to them, whether they're having sessions, in-person class sessions that are walking them through those processes, demonstrations, all that stuff. It's extremely important, because that influences how supported a group will feel, and how confident they'll feel in their ability to carry out those tasks on their own as well. And so this is very, very important, closer to go live, having those things in place. Training also includes a tech aspect to it, making sure that your system doesn't have any bugs. There's different types of training that are more from a functional standpoint, making sure that the systems that you're implementing have everything in place. And so that's a big part of that. And then change network as well. We've already touched upon that a little, so we can move forward. I think
yeah, and I'll add like two things if you don't mind there, Mustafa. Is I guess one, and I think kind of we've alluded to this whole presentation, is sometimes we're there to do some of that more strategy work at the beginning, and sometimes we're there to do that implementing and pressing send on the communications and whatnot, or sometimes we're there for both, which is why we might be on a project for 2 years of we spend the first 6 months doing the strategy, aligning leadership, then we move on to communications and training, and we see the whole project life cycle through. And so I think that's kind of an important takeaway, is just knowing that you can do that more strategy-based work as well as implementation, or both. And I guess kind of the second thing I'll add too is, obviously there's lots on the screen, and it can be overwhelming of, whoa, there seems like there's so many different things just all within transformational change and change management. And I think kind of the point we just want to drive home is, you may not understand what every single little thing means, but it's so important to know that, within transformational change, which maybe seems kind of niche, there's actually so many different activities that we're involved with. So yeah, I think it's just kind of useful to know it's the lay of the land of kind of what's out there. So.
And so now that we've gone through our entire presentation, let's see if your perspective or your knowledge of change management has changed, and what you think now is like some of the reasons why you think it's important. And just if there's anything in particular that strikes out to you as being more important than the others, feel free to share those as well.
I think there is a new code for this question. So if you go to menti.com and then enter the new code, which is 95322007.
Get the company on the right track. Yes, for sure. That's definitely a high level objective of change management. Increases productivity. Yes, if you're removing certain things, certain legacy systems that were holding back, and like you were spending too much time on something, definitely helps increase productivity. Keep up with the changing demands. The pandemic posed a huge change in our practice that to be changed 100%. This is extremely important moving forward. I think this is going to be a big part of the work that we do. Helps reach your final goal faster. Absolutely. Smooth process of business change. Definitely. Ensuring that the change is happening in a sustainable manner. That it's like there are as few hiccups as possible. What do you think like motivation transform a company in a way that increased productivity makes the workforce stronger? 100%. You've hit the nail on the head. It's needed to ensure that members of an organization can smoothly undergo transformation, whether expected or unexpected. Absolutely, absolutely. So it definitely seems like you guys have now a good understanding of why change management is important. I think we have one more minute. Yeah, so this does bring us to the end of our presentation. Are there any burning questions that you have? Anything that you thought of during the presentation but were too shy to interrupt us?
Yeah, anything that comes to mind kind of throughout the presentation that you maybe just want some more clarity on, or something that we didn't talk about today that you'd love to hear a bit more about, or even any questions for us about, our career journeys, or, what led us to choose Deloitte. If you've got any questions about, how do you pursue a career in human capital consulting, anything like that, it's totally open Q&A for you to ask those questions. So Mustafa, the first question, I'll let you answer first, of what would you say is the most difficult part of your job currently?
So what's the most difficult part of my job? I think definitely, and I'm sure you've heard this about consulting as well. Consulting's very demanding, physically and mentally demanding profession. Just making sure that our client deadlines are being met. There's long hours. There's also that, and with the pandemic, obviously, like just balancing those things together, balancing your personal and professional lives. The work itself, you learn over time. I don't think that's very difficult, but I think this applies generally to a number of industries. Just finding that balance that works for you, while also ensuring that the work that you're expected to deliver is being delivered and to the expectations of your client.
Nice. And I can take the next question, which is, what does a day look like as a business analyst? Very good question. And you're probably going to hear this from anyone you talk to about what are they doing in consulting, but it depends. There's no typical day. I can kind of walk you through what a typical day for me might look like, but knowing that, every day looks different, and, we swear by our Outlook calendars to keep us organized, and kind of know what meetings need to get to. But, I'll start my day and kind of go through my inbox and see if anything important has come through kind of since I logged off the previous day. And then I usually have a stand-up meeting with my team. And so, it's myself and all the other Deloitte change practitioners. We have a quick kind of morning touch point to check in of, okay, what's on everyone's plate for today? Any questions that we have for our manager kind of before we start the day. And then as we go into there, sometimes it's, okay, and break, let's go get some individual work done. And, it might be my heads down time and I have a few hours to work on, either formatting slides for our presentation this afternoon, or looking through my notes from a client workshop from the previous day and trying to figure out what were the key themes that we heard from the client that might help inform what's going in one of our deliverables. And, after that heads down time, I might have a couple more meetings with my teammates, and, one might be a one-on-one with my manager to chat through a couple of PowerPoint slides that I put together based on kind of something that we had, a conversation that we had, and she'll give me some feedback there. Another meeting might be with one of my other coworkers, and we're going to work on something together before it goes to the client or goes to our manager. And then, I usually have a coffee chat in there in the day, and you'll learn quickly, coffee chats never really go away, even once you've got a job, and it's constantly a way to, stay connected, especially remotely, with all our team members, and get to know new team members as well. So I'd say, a variety of meetings and individual work, and, emails come through, last minute asks come through, and, it's definitely a dynamic and busy day. And that's what I love about it, is that every day doesn't look the same. So you never get bored. Mustafa, do you want to talk? Oh yeah, go ahead.
What did you find challenging working in human capital consulting industry? I think generally, and I briefly talked about this in the first question as well. The challenge is that consulting as an industry is very intense. It works at a very rapid pace. There's often very quick turnaround time for work that you're expected to do. So I think that can be a challenge sometimes, just balancing out. Also, just when you start, you realize that you need to manage your own time. It doesn't matter if well, it does matter. But well, if a manager is reaching out to you and they need support, the thing is, there's always going to be work. You need to decide effectively what works for you, what doesn't work for you, managing your time most effectively to prioritize that your client work is going out and it's going out in the best shape possible, while also simultaneously managing things like Sarah mentioned, like making time to network with people, making time to just get alignment with your team, and time for those check-ins, those stand-ups. There's a lot of meetings that you're in. Just making sure what meetings you need to be in attendance for and what you just don't need to be there. So just finding that balance for yourself and managing your time, I think is one of the most challenging aspects of working in consulting and human capital as well.
For sure. Yeah, I would definitely echo that of, it's learning how you work best and navigating stressful situations. And, there's obviously lots of benefits to our job, and the people we work with are awesome, and the work is challenging and exciting, but definitely, yeah, a personal journey to kind of navigate how to navigate a demanding job. There's a couple questions kind of around getting into human capital consulting or getting into a company like Deloitte. So I'll answer a little bit, and then Mustafa, feel free to kind of jump off on that. Sure. For myself and for both of us, we both got kind of into the firm through an internship. So, Deloitte Canada hires both, for human capital consulting, as well as so many different service lines within consulting, within financial advisory, risk advisory, audit. So, Deloitte is a very large firm, which is kind of one of the benefits of, you get to work with a large company, work within a large company. And so any roles that are kind of in consulting or otherwise are usually put on the Deloitte Careers website. So definitely suggest looking at that Deloitte Careers website. And that's how Mustafa and I found our internship job postings, and Deloitte came to, for me, Deloitte came to Ivy and kind of did a presentation there. And that's how I got introduced to human capital consulting in Deloitte. And then from there, kind of stayed connected with some people there. And then once the job postings went live on the website, I applied through there with resume, cover letter, and then was able to be successful through the interview process and landing a summer internship. And then at the end of my summer internship, was grateful to receive a full-time offer for when I graduated school and to start full-time. And Mustafa and I both had that similarity of, we joined the firm as an internship, which then led into a full-time offer, but definitely internship is not the only way to get your foot in the door at a firm like Deloitte. We're constantly hiring both kind of internships as well as full-time positions upon graduation. So, if you're going into fourth year and you're considering a career in human capital consulting at Deloitte, definitely kind of keep your eye on the Deloitte careers website over the next few months. And I think recruiting usually happens in the fall, and that would be for full-time grad positions for next September. So definitely, keep your eyes out there. If you're in kind of second or third year and you're looking for next summer's internship, also take a look, those internship postings will be in the same place. And so definitely keep your eyes on the careers website. I would say that's kind of my top advice, and things are constantly changing. And, maybe it doesn't happen right out of school either, like that's totally an option of, you graduate, you do something else that you really like, and then, you might find your way to Deloitte a few years later and you get hired as an experienced hire instead of a campus hire. And that's totally another avenue to make your way into consulting. Anything else there to add, Mustafa, around getting into human capital consulting or getting your foot in the door into Deloitte?
No, I think you summarized it perfectly. That was exactly what my experience was as well. One thing that I will encourage is to reach out to people, as many people as you can. There's so many people who will make time for you, who will talk to you about this, walk them through your process, connect with as many people as you can. It definitely helps in learning more about the firm, also in figuring out whether this is for you or not, because it's not going to be for everyone. Not everything is for everyone. So by having those conversations, you can not only get a step in the door where you can get into human capital consulting or in Deloitte, but also just figuring out whether this is something that you want to do for the next few years of your life, whether it's something that you want to build a career in. So I think that's important as well. I can take on the next two. I think I'll combine these two. In what way has COVID impacted your jobs at Deloitte, and do you see traveling still being a part of a consultant's life post-COVID? So one of the ways it's impacted us is we're not traveling anymore because of the pandemic situation. I'm not sure if I perceive it as a negative or a positive, but it's definitely a big change. If we were working in a pre-COVID world, we'd definitely be traveling to our client. We'd be spending most of our time on the client side. So that is a big impact. There's this positive impact as well. If you're working remotely, you get to manage your own time at your place as well. There's so many things that you can do simultaneously, just figuring out. I live by myself, but for people who have families around, just giving time to your family and stuff. So that's definitely a positive. Being able to figure out what hours you want to work, as compared to like you might want to close work at 4 and then take it up later in the day, or you might just want to grind it out until 6 and then just be done with it. So these are all the flexibilities and advantages that you have working from home. Do I see traveling still being a big part of the consultant's life post-COVID? Not as big as it was, and this is just my personal opinion. I have no insight into what the leadership is thinking, but I just think it won't be as big of a thing, at least not immediately. So even if it is, I think it'll definitely would be eased into it. So the expectation likely won't be there that there's weekly travel, especially if it's traveling to different cities and taking flights and stuff, because the risk is still there. Like we're not fully out of it. So it definitely will be. I am not sure how big of a part that'll be. Yeah.
Nice. And yeah, I know we're at 11:15, so time check. I just want to check with the with the team if we're okay to still go for another 5-10 minutes, or if we should start to wrap up.
Yeah, another 5-10 minutes sounds good.
Perfect. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to all your questions and keep them coming. And if we can combine them, that's awesome too. So I can kind of take the next two together of what are some additional steps you took to get where you are today, as well as what experience and qualifications would you look for if you're applying. So for myself, consulting was all I knew through my internships. And so for better or for worse, I didn't have kind of other internship experiences to kind of compare to or to help set me up. But I think that was something that I really appreciated about the Deloitte recruitment process was I didn't have any, I didn't have any consulting experience. I didn't have any HR experience per se when I recruited for Deloitte. But I think Deloitte really places an emphasis on transferable skills. And, at the end of the day, they'll teach you how to do the work, and they want to make sure that you're able to learn, willing to help out. And kind of think those soft skills are really, really important, especially in human capital consulting, right? Our job is to set our clients up for success so that they can empower their employees for success. So I think kind of being super empathetic, being able to listen, being able to, come up with cool problem-solving ideas. I think those are the types of skills that they're really looking for. And so I would say if you feel like you maybe don't have experience on your resume that might kind of look good on a consulting resume, definitely don't discredit yourself. You likely have lots of experiences. And if you try to draw out the types of skills that you gained through some of those other experiences, I think that's definitely a great thing to put on your application, and kind of a way to kind of show that you're qualified for the job for sure.
If I can add to that, because I did briefly help with campus recruitment as well. I think some of the and what Sarah mentioned, transferable skills for sure. I think the things that make you stand out in a sea of resumes is whether you've been able to show leadership experience in any capacity, whether that's leadership at the HRA, whether that's leadership within your community, and skills like being able to work in a team, teamwork, whether you're able to lead a team, whether you're able to work with other players, and take skills like being able to take initiative. Have you demonstrated? And these can be, the firm does not discriminate whether it's consulting experience or whether it's, if you're able to demonstrate these experiences through any of your whether that's your education, your work experiences, anything of that sort, these things really stand out. And as part of your application, one thing that stands out the most is just having that clarity of thought, whether or not there's something that you want to do, doing your research on the firm, doing your research on the sort of work that we're delivering, connecting with people to reflect that in your cover letter, in your resume, that you have a good understanding of what you're applying for, because most people don't, when they apply, they haven't done adequate research on the role that they're applying for, or what the firm does, or what the service line does. And so these are some of the things that make you stand out for both good and bad reasons.
Exactly.
And, I can take the next one. Are you working within your team, or is there any other stakeholders within Deloitte to work with? This is a great question, because when we work on a project, there's a lot of aspects to it. Deloitte as a whole is engaged, and so there's other groups as well. We work with, you could end up working with the Omnia, the artificial intelligence group on any project. You could end up working with functional teams or tech teams within your projects as well. So there's definitely a lot of overlap. There's also internal projects. So not all projects are external. There are projects in which Deloitte itself is the client. You're still billable, and you're providing consulting to one of the functions or service lines or areas within the firm. And so that is when you engage a lot with those stakeholders within the firm that are not exactly a part of your team directly. And so, yeah, you definitely get to work a lot on that as well. I'll take this one as well. I think we missed this. What's the favorite project you've taken on? Why? Interesting. So my favorite project so far has been an HR transformation. Uh, I think, and this is me, but I put a lot of emphasis on the team that I'm working with. Obviously, everyone's great at the firm, but in that particular project, we had a great team, great leaders. There was complete clarity on everyone's part on what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to achieve that. So that definitely helps. If you've got that sort of environment around you in a team, it's not stressful. It's straightforward. I feel like those are things that you enjoy as well, and you're able to connect with those people. You're also simultaneously learning at this point, and we're by no means experts on the matter. But yeah, we joined 6 months ago. I was in university a year ago. But the thing is, it's every experience for me at this point, and for Sarah as well. It's a new learning experience. We haven't done any of this prior to coming at the firm, and so there's this wonderful projects, there's wonderful stuff that's happening, and so just being able to find that fit and have a great team to support you, and you feel guided, especially at in the stages of our careers that we're in. It's fairly early on. We don't know a lot of things, and so having a team that is willing to guide you, walk you through those things, support you, I think these ultimately shape your experience of what projects you like and what you don't like.
Definitely. And yeah, kind of the last question to close off this conversation, and I think it's a good way to close out this conversation is, do we have any failure experiences throughout your consulting career, and how do you restore confidence? I will say yes. Yes, it's not a success every single day. And, both from a personal learning journey as well as like our projects, there's times we fail. And I think it's how you react to those failure moments that really define, one, who you are as a person, and kind of two, the team and the company. And so I would say, there's some times where, I might have sent the wrong email, and I maybe shouldn't have worded something like that, or sometimes larger things too. And I think it's one, how you handle yourself and how you kind of address it of, listen, I really should have said this instead of this. I own that. And how do we move forward to make sure that, one, this doesn't happen again, and two, that we move forward and that we set our client up for success. And I think, there's definitely going to be days, not every day is glamorous, and like anything that you do, there's going to be some hard days and hard challenges. And I think it's important of, one, kind of being able to own that and move forward, and two, also kind of continuing to prioritize your mental health. I think, in any demanding career and any demanding university program, there's definitely, good days and bad days, kind of on a personal perspective too. And I would kind of urge you to definitely continue to prioritize your mental health throughout your careers. Jobs are constant, but your mental health is something that, if you don't address early on, it can end up kind of having severe impacts on your life. So definitely, I love my job and I love what I do, and I'm kind of continuing to prioritize my mental health. And sometimes that means logging off at a reasonable hour so that I can go make it to one of my extracurriculars, or that I can have dinner with my family. And I think I'm really grateful for Deloitte that the company allows us to have some good work-life balance and open up that conversation for kind of what else is important to you in your life, and how can we make sure that it goes hand in hand with the work rather than competing. So anything else there to add?
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I think it's also like, as part of a larger, when you step away from work as well, and you think about like life in general, like you are very likely to experience failures and successes. These go hand in hand. And so it's important not to stay fixated on one failure. Like if you're working at a firm for 10 years, it's highly unlikely that you haven't experienced any failures over the course of those 10 years. So it's and especially when you're new to the firm, when you're new to working in general, like it took some time for me to process the fact that, okay, I am working now and this is my life. And so like these are things that you need to process as well, and just keep moving forward. Try not to think, because there will always be opportunities for you to fix things, and just move on. And there's a lot more to learn, and just keep moving forward, not to stay fixated on what you did wrong, because you can't go back in the past and rectify it. So and the positive is that we do have the leadership and the management on projects that actually support you, that protect you, and give you that confidence to continue doing great work. And your mistakes don't define you, and you will make a lot of those, especially at this point in your careers. So embrace them and learn from them.
Definitely. So yeah, as we kind of come to the close of our conversation today, really enjoyed speaking with everyone today, and excited to, continue to stay connected. And our LinkedIn and emails are on the screen. So definitely would love to stay connected. And if you've got more questions, you know where to find us. Anything else there to add, Mustafa?
No, I'm good. If this was our first time doing this as well, I think it went well. I think we can assume that. But if you guys have any feedback on anything that we did right, did wrong, anything that we could improve on, definitely this was great. And also I'd like to reinforce this. Sarah and I are both always available. You can reach out to us, connect with us whenever you want, and I would be happy to answer any and every question that you have that I can answer. And just make sure that you have a good understanding, that you're prepared, that just anything that I can help with, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. And I will take the liberty of saying the same is true for Sarah as well.
Yeah, thanks all. Thank you for HRA for hosting us today, and thanks everyone for attending on a Sunday morning. It was a really enjoyable experience chatting with you all, and hope to stay connected.
All right, so thank you, Sarah and Mustafa, for that insight on human capital consulting and how it's made up of 4 subcategories: HR transformation, organization design, workforce transformation, and transformational change. We talked a lot about change management as well, and why change is really important, and the commitment curve was really interesting as well. To just know that there's such a long process of how to get from the left to the right side of the curve, which is from the initial contact introduction to the change of the change to the advocacy. We also learned the importance of change management as well, and how making a change in businesses may be hard and difficult at first, but at the end of the day, it may actually make the job easier and will help increase productivity. We also talked about the various types of change work, like organization alignment, change readiness, leadership, training, and change network, and so on. I think it was great for you to use menti.com, as it really made the conversation much more engaging and allowed us to contribute to the discussion as well and ask our questions. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone who attended today's module. If you aren't already, please make sure to follow our Instagram account to stay tuned to future events, hiring, and of course, our giveaway for this event. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a great Sunday, guys. Bye. Take care.